Hi, I am Sanjay Patel. Today we are going to start new topic limit and continuity. Remember, throughout this topic, I am going to consider real valued function of real variable. So all our functions will be like this: f from x to r, where x is any subset of r. Okay, so we are going to consider this type of real valued functions of real variable and discuss the concept of limit and continuity and the related things. What is the first requirement and the basic prerequisites for this studying study of limit and continuity? We'll be understanding in this lecture first. So I start with the definition of bounded function. So let me start with the definition of bounded function. A function f from x to r, a function from x to r is said to be a bounded function, is said to be a bounded function or simply bounded function on x if there exists some real number k greater than 0 such that mod of fx is less than or equal to k for every x belongs to the domain. So a function is said to be bounded if it satisfies this condition. There are many other equivalent form of this definition. Like I can write the condition given in the definition of bounded function here. This condition I can write as minus k less than or equal to fx less than or equal to k. Or it is equivalent to say that a function is bounded. A function is bounded if there exists some real numbers p and q in R such that p is less than or equal to f of x and f of x is less than or equal to q for every x belongs to capital X. So you can replace this condition mod of fx less than or equal to k by this equivalent condition. So one can define a bounded function either by using this condition or this condition, and both are equivalent, can be proved very easily. Okay. Second thing is, one can prove that f is bounded. F is a bounded function on the whole domain X if and only if the set, that is the range of f. You know what is the range of f? It is denoted by the symbol f of square bracket capital X. What is this symbol? It is the image set of f, image set of x under the function f. So f of x, this set, range of f, is bounded set. So this is again a very simple result. You can try using the simple definition of bounded set we have studied earlier, that f is bounded function on the whole domain X if and only if the range of f is a bounded set. You know what is a bounded set? A set which is bounded above as well as bounded below, or it has upper bound as well as lower bound. So this is the definition of bounded function, and some simple examples you know very well of bounded function. Say I can take, say, f from, say, n to r, defined like this. F of n is equal to minus 1 raised to n. for every n belongs to the domain n. Clearly, this function takes only two values, +1 and -1, according to n is even or n is odd. So, it is clear that mod of f of x, if you find, or mod of f of n, if you find mod of f of n for any n in the domain, that is always going to be +1 for every n belongs to n. So clearly this is less than or equal to 1, which I can take as the number k. So f is bounded function. F is bounded function. Another known example to you is the trigonometric function sine and cos. We know that the function fx defined as f from r to r, where fx is equal to sin x. This function has all its values between -1 and +1. We know that -1 is less than or equal to sin x, less than or equal to +1 for every x belongs to r. So I can say that -1 less than or equal to f of x is less than or equal to +1 for every x in the domain. So this function is again bounded by our alternative definition. This is you can call as p and this is q. There exists some real numbers p and q such that all values of the function lies between these two numbers p and q. So sin x is also bounded. So fx is equal to sin x function. This is also bounded. Same way cos is also bounded. Okay. What can you say about sum, product, etc. of two bounded functions? So in this regard, I want to write or explain some results as a remark, which you can try later on. I will try to prove one or two. The first thing is, if f and g both are functions from the same set x to r, if f and g are bounded functions, if both are bounded on x, then we can prove that f plus g or f minus g, or say k times f, k is some constant, and f into g, product of two functions, these are all bounded functions, are bounded. So if f and g are bounded on x, then f plus g, f minus g, k into f, f into g, all are bounded functions. Just for understanding, let us prove only one. Say, suppose I prove this first f plus g. So here f and g are bounded. Here f and g are bounded on x. Both are bounded functions on x. So that implies there exist some constants, say k1 and k2 greater than 0, such that mod of fx is less than or equal to k1 and mod of g of x is less than or equal to k2 for every x belongs to capital X. This is our result number 1. What we want to prove is f plus g is bounded. So we consider this mod of f plus g of x. What is mod of f plus g of x? This I can write by definition of sum of two functions, mod of fx plus gx. And by applying the triangular inequality, I can rewrite this as less than or equal to mod of fx plus mod of gx, because fx and gx are real numbers, and for any two real numbers a and b, we know that mod of a plus b is less than or equal to mod a plus mod b. Okay, and this is less than or equal to k1, and this is second term is less than or equal to k2 for every x belongs to capital X. This is we are writing because of 1 by result number 1. K1 and K2 are both positive real number. So I can put this is equal to k, where k is equal to k1 plus k2, and that is positive. So what I have proved is there exists some k greater than 0 such that f plus g of x is less than or equal to k. So f plus g of x mod of this is less than or equal to k for every x belongs to x. So f plus g is also bounded. This is also bounded function. So likewise, you can prove f into g, f minus g, k into f are bounded. We have not included the division here. The reason is the result is not true for the this division of two bounded functions. Means if f and g are two bounded functions on x, then f upon g need not be bounded. So that I want to mention as my second remark. So let me write. If f and g are bounded functions, if f and g are bounded functions, then f upon g, if it is well defined, f upon g, if it exists, need not be bounded. Okay. Say for example, let us consider two bounded functions, and I want to show that their division is not bounded, where division is possible. So I can take some, or I can construct some simple basic functions. Say let f from open interval say 0 comma 1 to r defined as fx is equal to 3 for every x in our domain. Domain is open interval 0 1. Okay, so clearly this is bounded function. And let us take another function g defined on the same domain 0 1 to r as say gx is equal to x for every x belongs to open interval 0 1. Clearly both of these are bounded. Clearly f and g are bounded because f is a constant function, so you can check any condition, and here gx all values lies between 0 and 1, so it is also bounded by definition. But if you try to find f upon g, which is again from open interval 0 1 to r defined as f upon g of x is equal to f of x upon g of x. What is f of x? It is 3. And what is g of x? It is x for every x belongs to r. Clear? So our function f upon g of x is 3 upon x, and which is clearly not bounded above, because as you take x closer and closer to 0, okay, closer and closer to 0, then the value of 3 upon x, it goes closer and closer to infinity. You know this this thing. Okay, just I'm writing using the this limit notations for simplicity. But if you take values of x closer and closer to 0, then 3 upon x will be increasing. So it can be proved very easily that there is no real number k such that mod of f upon g of x is less than or equal to k for every x belong to open interval 0 1 is true. So f upon g is not a bounded function. Is not a bounded function. So this is also an exercise for you to give the detail about why that f upon g is not bounded. Okay. You can use contradiction method also. Suppose if it is bounded, then you will always get some point x in the domain for which the value of the function is greater than that bound what you have selected. Okay. So that is about the bounded functions. Our main aim is to discuss the concept of limit and continuity of functions of real valued and real variable. Okay. So now I consider another important thing which is required for understanding the notion of limit of a function, and that is a concept of neighborhood. You know very well, but we'll just recall all these things quickly. So in this regard, I start with the definition of neighborhood. Neighborhood of a point. So let a be any real number and delta be any positive real number. These two things are given. Let a belongs to R and delta greater than 0 be given. Then the set, or then the delta neighborhood, let me write this way, then the delta neighborhood of the point A is denoted by the symbol n of A comma delta. There are other notations also, like one can write n delta of A, and there is one more notation is S delta of A. Okay. So the delta neighborhood of A is denoted by this symbol. We are going to consider this symbol n of A comma delta, and it is defined as this open interval n of A comma delta. This set, this notation means the set given by the open interval A minus delta comma A plus delta. So this is our definition of delta neighborhood of A. You know, this open interval you can write in many ways. Like I can write this as set of all x belongs to R such that A minus delta less than x less than A plus delta. You also know that this can be expressed in the modulus form by using that result. So I can write mod of set of all x belongs to R such that mod of x minus A is less than delta. This inequality is equivalent to write in this modulus form, mod of x minus A is less than delta, and this also you have already proved. So these two things are equivalent. Okay. So n of A comma delta can be expressed either any of in these three forms. Okay. And the meaning here is, if I consider, say, if I consider a real line, then on this real line I can take 2 points. I can take a point small a here and some number delta greater than 0, which I will be adding to this. So I will get A plus delta and A minus delta, something somewhere here. Say suppose this is a plus delta. That means this distance is delta. We have added delta to this, and if you subtract delta, suppose I get a minus delta somewhere here. So again this distance is delta. Okay. So remember this distance is delta. So our delta neighborhood is nothing but the set of points which are lying between a minus delta and a plus delta, including the point A. So all these points are members of our delta neighborhood. If you choose delta very small, then the points you can get very close to A. Okay. So for example, if I take suppose if I consider A is equal to say 1 or 2 and delta is equal to say 1, then what I will get here is suppose 2 is somewhere here. This is my point. A is equal to 2 and 2 plus 1 will be somewhere here, that is 3, and 2 minus 1 is somewhere here, say it is 1. So the symbol n of a comma delta, that is n of this 2 comma 1 is nothing but 2 minus 2 plus 1, 2 minus 1 and 2 plus 1, that is 1 comma 3. So it is this neighborhood. So all points between 1 and 3 are elements of our set n of 2 comma 1. So this is delta. This distance is delta. Okay, and if you choose delta very small, then you will get points very close to 2. So instead of 1, suppose if I consider say 0. Delta is equal to say 0.1. If I take delta is equal to 0.1, then n of 2 comma 0.1 will be 2 minus 0.1 and 2 plus 0.1, that is 1.9 and 2.1. So this will be my new delta neighborhood of the same center. So here in this case 2 minus 1 and 2 minus 0.1, that is 1.9 will be somewhere here, and 2.1 will be somewhere here. Suppose this is 1.9 and this is 2.1, then all our points are lying between this 1.9 and 2.1. Now you can see you can choose points which are very very close to 2. So that's why this is known as neighborhood. Whatever is there in the neighbor, we can collect in this set. So as the delta or as the radius is small, we will get points very close to 2. So that's why we use the concept of this closeness or neighborhood in understanding behavior of a function close to a given point. Same way I want to define what is called deleted delta neighborhood of the point A. That is more important to us. So let me write down definition of deleted delta neighborhood. Definition of deleted delta neighborhood. Remember, now onwards I will write in short NBD for neighborhood, delta neighborhood of a point. So let us start with A be any real number and delta greater than 0 be given. Delta greater than 0 be given. Then the deleted delta neighborhood deleted delta neighborhood of the point A is denoted by n star into bracket A comma delta. This is the notation for deleted delta neighborhood, n star of A comma delta, and it is defined as n star of A comma delta is equal to n of A comma delta minus singleton A. So what we are doing here is we are removing the point A from the delta neighborhood of A and call it deleted delta neighborhood. So this you can rewrite in again many ways. As you know, n of A comma delta is A minus delta comma A plus delta, and then we are removing the center for the point A. So this is equivalent to the right set of all x belongs to R such that A minus delta less than x less than A plus delta, but x is not equal to A. So this is the extra condition we are putting here in our deleted delta neighborhood definition. Okay, and this is again we can write in the equivalent form using the modulus property of this inequality, that this can be written as mod of x minus A less than delta. Correct? You know that this thing is equivalent to mod of x minus less than delta. But now I don't want to consider x is equal to A. So I must write 0 less than mod of x minus A less than delta. Now why? Because you know definition of the modulus, you know that mod of x minus A is 0, okay, if and only if x minus A is equal to 0. That means if and only if x is equal to A. So now if you do not want to consider x is equal to A, then you can write this way: x is not equal to A means x minus A is not 0, that is not equal, that means is mod of x minus A is not equal to 0. And as modulus is always greater than or equal to 0, I can conclude that if x is not equal to A, then a mod of x minus A is strictly greater than 0. So this is the reason why I have written 0 less than mod of x minus A over here. Actually mod of x minus A is always greater than or equal to 0. But here I do not want to consider x equal to A, that point. So I am writing strict inequality at this place. So deleted delta neighborhood plays very important role for discussing the limit of function at a point. Because even if that point does not lie in the domain of the function, we can still discuss what is the limit of the function, or we can discuss what is the nature or behavior of the function at that point. That's why this concept of deleted delta neighborhood is introduced. Diagrammatically, again it is same thing, just we are removing the center. So again I am taking a straight line here, a number line, okay, and let me take a point, say here A, then this is say A plus delta, and this is say A minus delta. What we are doing here is we are removing this center, so this is not included now. Remember, this is not included. So what does our deleted delta neighborhood contains? It contains the points which are between A minus delta and A, but not A, and also points between A and A plus delta. And this center, because this A is at the same distance from both these endpoints of these intervals, because this distance is delta, this distance is delta, and this is also delta. So that's why A is also known as center. So A is called center of this neighborhood, and delta is also known as radius. Just remember these terms. Sometimes you will find this is called center, and delta is called radius of the neighborhood. Okay, and we are not considering this point, remember. So this is our n star a comma delta, deleted neighborhood. It is also known as punctured neighborhood. Punctured neighborhood of A. Okay. So this is about two important prerequisites which will be required in the understanding of limit of functions and some other results related to this. The definition of bounded set, bounded function, and definition of neighborhood. Okay, so we'll define limit of a function and understand the concept in our next lecture. Thank you.